There's been a lot of great smartphones recently, such as like the OnePlus Nord or the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. All of those are really great. But since there are so many smartphones being released all the time, I'm going to give you guys the best smartphones of the middle of 2020. Let's get started with the video. Now, before I actually get started with the video, all of these phones are just my opinion. Lots of your best smartphones might not be on this list, so just keep that in mind. So let's get started with the first phone, and that is the OnePlus 8 Pro, and in my opinion, it is one of the best all-rounder phones because it's got the Snapdragon 865 up to 12GB RAM and UFS 3 storage up to 256GB, as well as a 120Hz 1440p display. But specs aren't the most important thing because you could have good specs, but if you don't have good software, then it makes the phone feel slower. But in this case, the OnePlus 8 Pro has Oxygen OS, which in my opinion is the best Android software because it's well optimized as well as being simple. But not only that, there's other things that make a phone good, such as good build quality and a good camera. But luckily, once again, the OnePlus 8 Pro excels at both of those things. Its camera quality is very good, and the build quality is great. So overall, this smartphone packs everything you want, and for a price tag that's still $100 less than most flagships. So the next phone, you've probably I think most people never actually heard of this phone, and that is the Redmi K30 5G Racing Edition. And so even if you look on Swap or Amazon, you probably won't be able to find it. So you might be asking, why am I even talking about it? Well, it's actually because you can find it on eBay. It's different from most buying smartphones because you have to import it from China. But it's definitely worth the wait, because if you look at it first, it's pretty interesting specs. Snapdragon 768G, which is an overclocked version of the Snapdragon 765G. It's got 6GB RAM and 128GB of storage, a quad camera setup, as well as a 1080p 120Hz IPS LCD display. You might immediately put it off by saying, oh, it's really bad because it's only, a mid-range processor, but actually, in real life use, it's actually just as good as something like the Snapdragon 845 in single core and in multi-core. It's actually really close to the Snapdragon 845 because the 765G is actually overclocked, so it's now the 768G. But I think the best thing about this phone is that you can get this phone for an insane $280. Considering how close you're getting to a flagship level phone in almost all areas, this is the best smartphone in the sub $300 price tag. So now let's talk about the OnePlus Nord. And the OnePlus Nord, I was originally not excited about this phone. It was because I thought that OnePlus was being a little bit generic. But after it actually got released, I was in shock. The price started at an insanely low $330, and for that price, it had really everything that you wanted. It's because it was powered by the Snapdragon 765G. While it's not the best that Snapdragon has to offer, it's not that bad in any way. It's also got 12GB of RAM up to 256GB of storage, and good enough camera setup where I think anyone would be pleased with the pictures that you actually get from it. And also it's got Oxygen OS, and as well as a display that's 90Hz and a 1080p Fluid AMOLED panel. And in my opinion, that's why the OnePlus Nord is probably one of the best phones that you could probably get for the $330 to the $450 price range. So now let's talk about the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. And if you have $1,300 to spend on a phone, I would immediately go for this phone. It has the Snapdragon 865 Plus chipset, up to 12GB of RAM, 512GB of UFS 3.2 storage, 120Hz 1440p display, even though you can't use those two options at the same time. And even better, the Note 20 Ultra has an incredible camera setup. A 108 megapixel main sensor that has been improved from the S20 Ultra to have better autofocus, as well as a 12 megapixel ultra-wide lens and a 12 megapixel telephoto lens that is periscopic, and these cameras are really good. But not only that, you're getting the improved S Pen, and now has a 7 millisecond latency from when it touches the screen. So basically, overall, this phone is amazing for $1,300 if you have the money for it. And finally, we have the Pixel 4a. We were waiting months and months for this phone, as it kept getting delayed, but now it's finally here, and I also think it's one of the best phones that you can get for the $330 to $450 price range. But at a first glance, it looks like a worse phone in almost all ways to the Nord. A slower Snapdragon 730G, only 6GB of RAM, one color option which makes it feel dull, plastic build all around, and only a single real 12.2 megapixel camera. But in reality, it's actually not that bad. And the main reason why is the camera. And while yes, it only does have one camera, but that camera is completely class leading. Even comparing the picture quality to a $1,000 smartphone, you can be pretty sure that the Pixel 4a will just have as good or sometimes better images. Like for example, some people actually prefer one really good camera instead of 4 okay cameras. So yeah, that's the Google Pixel 4a. Anyways guys, that was the best smartphones of mid-2020. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. And by the way, fun fact, if you guys want to know what phones I was using for this, I was just using some example phones. Here is the HTC Evo 3D. This is actually a really cool phone. It has dual cameras. I just wanted to show you. And then I have iPhone X and iPhone 6. And then also I'm using 2 boxes here just to make it look a little bit better. And anyways guys, thank you so much for watching. We are so close to 300 subscribers. I'm so excited for the 300 subscriber mark. We already passed 250 subscribers. But yeah, see you guys later.